the Hall of Fame, ladies and gentlemen. And I've been saying this for a very long time. I've been sitting here and arguing that this man should be in the Hall of Fame. And finally, the NHL, maybe they're listening to us. Maybe they're listening to me and my takes to Pierre Turgeon. When you look at his numbers and you can compare him to so many players that are in the Hall of Fame right now. As a matter of fact, his numbers in the way he did it and at the time that he did it is better. And this guy, for 20 years, is not in the Hall of Fame. If that's not bias, I don't know what is. The same player that he was traded for, Pat LaFontaine, and I like Pat. Pat's a good guy, and he's a good player. Honestly, Pierre Turgeon was a better player. Go look at their numbers. Pat LaFontaine had to retire early because of concussion problems and injuries. Pierre Turgeon played over 15 years. He's just a better player. And it took him 20 years. Pat LaFontaine's been in the Hall of Fame for 20 years. It's just not fair. I don't understand why the NHL held too long on this. I think Pierre Turgeon was a very good guy in the NHL. He never cried about anything. He went out there and he did his best. And he had nothing to show for it from the NHL because the guy never won a Stanley Cup. Pierre Turgeon is a special player. And he was a special player for the Islanders and all the teams, the Buffalo Sabres, all the teams he played for. He was good. And Henrik Lundqvist, congratulations to him. Very well deserved. One of the greatest goaltenders of this era, if not the greatest. And he went in very, very fast. So it just shows you how much the NHL respects a guy like Henrik Lundqvist. Now, I don't know much. I've heard mixed things about Henrik Lundqvist. He's nice, he's bad, he's this, he's that. I don't care. What I do know is he was the only reason why the Rangers went to the Stanley Cup final against the LA Kings that year. Obviously, they lost, but they didn't have a chance. And everybody's going to say, well, he never won a Stanley Cup. It's not easy winning Stanley Cups. He was the best player at his position for many, many years. He was the best player on his team, and he was a goalie. So it just tells you what type of player he was and really what he stood for as a player, as a leader, as one of the greatest goaltenders to ever play the game.
And both guys, you could really look at the morals of hockey being just a great team sport when it comes to just so many uncontrollable factors that you need to happen to win. When you look at Henrik Lundqvist, you look at a guy that has a 2.3 goals against average in the playoffs. Like, that's not his fault. That should be said, all right, he didn't win a Stanley Cup just because he didn't win a Stanley Cup. The Rangers offense at the beginning of his career, when they made the playoffs, was not that good. They had a lot of older guys. They had Jaromir Jagr, Brandon Shanahan at that time, and their offense was always putrid in the playoffs. Then later on, in the middle of last decade, after their Stanley Cup run, then their defense started to get old. Girardi, McDonough, those guys all started to get old, and then they just really didn't have a lot of help for Henrik Lundqvist. So at no point was that kind of thing his fault. So anyone that's saying, oh, you never won a Stanley Cup is a very lazy argument, and same kind of thing with Pierre Turgeon. Pierre Turgeon played for the Islanders and many other teams after their peak years and still put up 1,300 points in the NHL. That is absolutely insane. Top 30, top 40 all time in a lot of those categories.
New York Islanders captain Anders Lee has been named as a finalist for the King Clancy Memorial Trophy. The award is given out annually to players who best amplifies leadership qualities on and off the ice and has made a noteworthy humanitarian contribution to the community. Congratulations to Anders Lee. He's a good guy. When your captain could go up for an award that is only for being good guy, and besides your goaltender, none of your guys are up for any other awards, this is bad. And I am an Islander fan. I like Anders Lee. Anders Lee is one of the most overpaid and overrated captains in the NHL right now. The guy is slow as hell. As good of a player he is in front of the net, he can't do anything else. I understand why the NHL wants to award players for what they do. The humanitarian award of King Clancy Memorial Trophy, that's great. Congratulations to him. I really mean it. But I want to see these guys win Norris trophies. I want to see these guys win Hart trophies, Lady Byng trophies. I don't want to hear, oh, he won the King Clancy Memorial Trophy. That doesn't explain the type of player he is on the ice, and that's what we're paying tickets to go and see. That's what the Islanders are paying $8 million to go and see, and he's slow, and the guy just doesn't put up the offensive numbers.
Right, and the Islanders have been behind the curve, kind of like what we've been saying with the Mets a lot. Like, they had a good building of the team, but they had the wrong concepts. They're building it on power. They're building on, like you said, tough goals with not a lot of speed on the ice. The same kind of thing with the Mets. So, like, the Islanders were the oldest team in the NHL this season, average age of about 29. And you look at those concepts, Anders Lee was one of the last remaining originals that still has some value, but like you said, definitely not worth that money. But again, you have to give him credit where credit is due for the King Clancy Award. Always like to see those guys in the community.